Buenos días nuevamente. Bienvenidos a la tercera sesión de clase del día de hoy. Am, Nos da mucho gusto recibirlos nuevamente. Un saludo por ahí para nuestros amigos que nos visitan de otros países. Tenemos aquí algunos amigos conocidos de Colombia. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Am, Esta es la tercera sesión del día de hoy. La presentación será hecha por el señor Dave Cash, especialista en herramientas, en este caso DC Controllers. La presentación será hecha en inglés. Ustedes pueden hacer cualquier pregunta, ya sea en inglés o en español. Pueden levantar la mano, pueden hacer un comentario por medio del chat. Estamos aquí para ayudarles. Yo les puedo ayudar con la traducción en caso de que sea necesario o ustedes lo consideren así. Am, Sin más preámbulos, se lo pasamos al señor Dave Cash. Adelante, Dave.
Thank you very much, Damien. As he mentioned, my name is David Cash. I'm a member of the marketing team here at Mounts. And so we're going to be going into our second class on our new DC control tools. We first started our introduction on what is error proofing and how that works within our our ECT, also our AD series, which is our robotic and automation tools. And then also we have coming up our battery cordless version of our DC transducerized tools. And then we looked at the different tightening strategies we can use, our parameters, the ability to add error proofing to screw counting and a number of our job and model functions. And so as we worked through our setup in our first class, in our second class here, we're going to dive in a little bit more onto our fastening parameters. And then also we'll take a look at how we can incorporate the use of a barcode with that. And so with the actual workflow and how that works with the overall configuration of the tool, that's kind of how we're going to look at what is in the parameter tab and specifically the fastening function within that tab. And so we're going to look at how to program the different presets that we use. We'll also look at some of the different parameters within those particular fastening presets. And then we'll also look at some of our advanced functions. And then again, we'll finish up with the barcode. And so I just wanted to mention, as I did at the end of the last session, that if there's anything in particular that you would like to see for an application that you're dealing with or for your process, or you'd like a more in-depth demonstration for a specific function or how we use the tools, you can certainly reach out to us through the information that's been provided, and we can certainly do a more one-on-one type of demonstration to kind of tailor it for your specific need or interest in the product. So that is available if there's something that you'd like to look at, something more in depth than what our classes here are going to be presenting. So with that, let's go ahead and we can jump back into the controller. So we're back here into our operation menu. And at this point, we want to go in and look at our parameter tab and then the section within that tab. So to get back to that menu, we can just tap up into the upper left corner there on the 4 boxes. We enter in our password. That is then going to allow us to get into the controller menu. And then we'll jump into the parameter menu. And now we'll go ahead and look at the fastening tab within that. And so right now what you're seeing is one page of the different parameters that we have for whichever preset that we are using. And so there are 15 different presets that we can use for this particular tool. Then you can see down on the bottom here, we are using preset 1 of 15. And then this is the first page within the parameters. If I hit the down arrow, what you'll see is we move to page B, and we have another 5 parameters here that we can adjust. And so if I come back to page A, and we start with our very first parameter in here, and then that is going to be the type. This is where we can select which type of fastening strategy we want to use. The first box here, we have torque control with angle monitoring. That means the system is going to look for a specific torque. Then it can also look for a specific amount of turn or angle that has been done with the fastener. And we can use those two parameters to ensure that we have a good rundown. We also have the other method or type, which is angle control and torque monitoring. So in this case, we actually want to turn the fastener to a specific value of turn or angle, and we can then put a minimum or a maximum value on the torque that we would like to see. So in this case, what you can see here is I'm on preset number 1. I'm in the angle control with torque monitoring. We have a maximum torque value set at 5 Newton meters. We have a minimum at 0. And then we have what is going to be our target angle set right here. And that's set to 100 degrees of angle. If we want to change this parameter, we can simply just tap on it. And if I need to change it to 1,000, now I've updated that parameter and changed the amount of target for the angle to 1,000. So if we run this particular preset 1, it is going to run the tool to 1,000 degrees of rotation and stop. And we must be between a minimum of 0 to 5 Newton meters for it to be considered a good rundown. And so if I needed to make any other adjustments to the fastening tab for this preset, or we can go ahead and jump into a different preset. Let's go, if we just tap down on the bottom here, we can then enter in which preset we would like to modify. So if we go in and we want to look at preset number 10, we can come in and change the parameters for this preset. So right now we have our type at torque control with angle monitoring. We have our target torque at 3 Newton meters. We can then go ahead, if we wanted to change our torque value for this one, we want to change this to, let's say 3.5. And now we have updated the target torque. We can also enter in a torque limit. So right now we have it set at 10%. So anything that we may read on this particular preset that falls out of 10% of the target value, we would receive an error. So we can, again, we can set that to a specific percentage value. We have some other values that we can, that may take a little bit more explanation, but we have our snug torque. And then if we move down here, we have our target angle, our minimum angle and our maximum angle. So in this scenario, if our fastener is set to 3.5 Newton meters, and if we fall back to our example that it takes basically 5 revolutions to fully tighten this fastener, we can then say we need to have a minimum degree of angle of at least 1,700 degrees, and our maximum angle can be no more than 1,900 degrees. So we've basically created that window, which would normally be at 1,800 degrees of rotation. So we have kind of satisfied our 2 steps. The system is going to look for a target torque at 3.5 Newton meters. It's also going to monitor the amount of angle or turn that took place, and it must reach between 1,700 and 1,900 degrees of angle. If it does not, then we would receive an error. So again, errors could be cross-threading, it could be incomplete washers. stack setup on the fastener, something that is going to change the amount of rotation that happens within that assembly process. So this is how we can change the different presets within that particular item. Again, this is page 1. If we go to page 2, or our B page, in here we can do things like we can initiate a soft start. We also have some parameters that we can use in the overall fastening. Again, to get into each one, it's going to be a little bit of maybe a more in-depth discussion, but we can certainly have those in a more demo type of meeting. So if you'd like to do that, we can do that as well. So that is going to be our fastening tab. So that's where we kind of craft our specific presets that we're using, and some of the basic parameters around the torque, the angle, and then some other parameters as well. And so again, on our menu here, if we look at our advanced tab, this gives us the ability to do some advanced functions within the parameters for each preset. So again, down on the bottom of our screen here, you'll see that I'm dealing with the page A, basically, for 1 of 15. So this would be dealing with preset 1, and we would be adding some additional functionalities for some advanced type of tightenings. So the first is a free reverse. So this allows us to be able to start the tool at a very slow RPM in the reverse direction to help make sure that the fastener gets engaged to the through the application correctly. So if you are seeing instances of cross-threading events, or you have a real fine thread type, this is a feature that we can use to help mitigate the cross-threading. We also have a thread tapping mode. This allows us to be able to run through a portion of the fastener rundown that may be generating more torque than the final torque is. And so that would be cases of maybe a security patch, a nylon patch, or thread locker, or some other things that we may need to cut. And that cutting is a higher torque threshold than the final torque. We can do some settings in here to allow that to take place. We also have an engagement torque detection. We can use this to help monitor angle. If we have a specific jump or spike in the rundown torque that we're seeing. And then we also have the ability to add angle after the fastener has finished torquing. And so if you have a torque specification that requires you to take the fastener to 1 Newton meter and then rotate it 30 degrees, we can set that up here in this particular app, or in this particular advanced section. We can select what our RPM is going to be. We can say how much angle do we need to turn. And then we can also tell it which direction, either forward or reverse. So we have a lot of control as it relates to what happens to the fastener after we've hit that initial torque value. And so there is this same setting again for all 15 presets. So we have these 2 pages, page A and page B, for our advanced section of the fastening parameters. So we have next would be our screw count function. Again, this is a global count that we can put onto the controller if we are using this in basically a preset type of mode without any other process control. But we can go ahead and we can change our count function. We can also do some integration with line control for PLC if it's going to need a middle count signal, what type of sensor adjustment delay time we might need. so we do have the ability to make this screw counting feature, incorporate that into some line control with a PLC. And then we have next is our digital inputs and outputs. So on the EC and ECT controllers, we do have 8 inputs that we can use, and then we also have 8 outputs that we can use. So these are all digitally assignable. So if we look at what signals we're going to see on a specific wiring diagram for each pin, we can go ahead and we could set those based off of the inputs and outputs that we want to use. And so if I wanted to change a preset, or excuse me, an output or input, you could simply just tap on that number, and then we can come in and we can change what that particular output is going to be. So I can change output number 8 to driver lock, and then this is going to disable the tool. So we can do those types of adjustments to the different menu items that are within the input and output, again, that we can digitally assign. And we have a number of different menu items that we can use to do just that with our inputs and outputs. Next, we have our controller tab. Now, this particular page, or excuse me, this particular menu has a number of different pages. So we have all different types of settings that we can use. And this basically allows us to be able to control what happens to the way that the controller works, how it functions, whether it be items like the unit of measurement that we're using, what the password is. So if we want to change it from the default password, we can do that. What particular operation preset we would like the system to wake up in once it's powered on. A number of these different functions that we have. So the RS-232 port is one that are we going to be using the Modbus or Open Protocol to be able to communicate by streaming the data out of the RS-232 port. What is the baud rate going to be? Again, a lot of different parameters that we can control in here to set up what we would like and how the controller is going to function. So that's all done in the controller menu. We have our network settings here, so we can be able to put the controller onto an internal network. We have those values here. And now we have the last 2 values are going to be the multi-sequence and the modeling function. And so what separates these 2 is the multi-sequence allows us to be able to stack different presets on top of each other to create one assembly process within one trigger pull event. So, for example, if we had a situation where a fastener that's being run down has a gasket, and we want to kind of exercise that gasket a little bit so we don't get as much relaxation in that particular joint that may happen if we just simply ran it down to one specific preset. So we can come in and in our multi-sequence, we can first do a fastening step for preset number 1. We then can do either a delay step or another function. There are actually 4 different functions we can do in the multi-sequence. The first is the fastening. We have a delay. We can then loosen the fastener for a certain amount of turns, and this is in tenths of turns. And then we can come in and we can do a fastening on preset number 3. Again, loosen it, come back down, fasten to preset number 2. And then finally, we can loosen it again and finish at preset 15. So this would all take place and happen within one trigger pull. So the tool would run down, go up, run down, go up, run down, go up, run down again, and finish its final at preset 15. And then there are delays within that scenario that we have set up here as well. But that gives us, again, the ability to use different presets in one trigger pull rundown. So that's the multi-sequence. We have two of those available. We have multi-sequence A and a multi-sequence B in that we can use with the system. Now, the last menu item here is we have the model function. And so the model function or job function, if you'd like to think of it that way, that allows us to be able to put an assembly process together for a specific type of build. So in this case, if we go into our model function, we have basically 20 different steps that we can use for each model. It works just like the presets. We have model 1 of 15 here. And in this particular setup, this is, we have 3 different torque values that we're dealing with on this assembly. So the first part of our assembly, we're going to fasten at preset number 1 for a count of 5 fasteners. So once that happens, the system will then switch to the second step, which is again a fastening step, but it's going to switch automatically to preset 2 for a count of 6. And then after we finish with those 6 items, we're going to have an output signal that's going to be set on this port, and it's going to be sent out to a monitoring device. Maybe it's a light tree or some other output device that we may be using. Then the system will automatically switch into another fastening step, and we'll switch to preset 3, and that we can go ahead and use that for a count of 4. And then finally, we're going to have a barcode that the operator needs to scan to complete that particular model. So again, the model function allows us to create a actual assembly process or build for a certain cell or type. So we have these different functions that we can add within the model. So again, we have a fastening, a delay, an input step, an output step, or we can scan a barcode as part of that model step. And so how we use this is a little bit different than the operation in the preset mode. So we actually change how the controller is being used, and we do that in the controller menu. We basically just change the function from the preset mode to the model mode, and that will put the controller into the model mode. So it will use that same model 1 through 15, just like it would with presets. And so that's how we can do that. Again, if you want to see something that's a little bit more in depth and an actual model in place, we can certainly do that with a more tailored demo to your specification. And so that is the parameter tab within our menu function that we looked at. The last thing that we'll go ahead and take a look at is how we can use the barcode scanner, how we set that up, and that is done in our settings menu and under barcode. And so I currently have a barcode attached to the RS-232 port. And if I go ahead and zoom out a little bit, this is the barcode sheet that I have here. We basically have 3 different barcodes that I've selected on here. If we want to add a barcode to generate a specific preset or a model, we can do that. We have 30 available barcodes that we can use. We can also select which characters of that particular barcode we would like to read from. So we can tell the system to start reading at this value or digit and end at that digit. So if you have some unique identifiers within a specific barcode that you want to exclude from being read, we can accommodate that. So we have, again, 30 different barcodes that we can use. So if I go to barcode number 30, and let me just zoom back in here. I want this particular barcode that I'm going to scan to change to preset. Actually, let's make it 15. And now I can just read the barcode. And now it's populated that barcode. And so when I scan that barcode, it's going to bring up preset model 15 within the menu when we're in the operation mode. If I needed to edit this or I needed to change it, I could do that. I could just erase this. Are we sure? Or reset that item. Go ahead and hit read and set that up again for 15. And now we have that particular barcode set within the system. And now it will bring up preset 15 when I scan it. So currently, right now, we're on preset number 10. If I scan that, I scanned a different code. It brought us to preset number 4. And then I scan the bottom code there that I just taught, and it brings us to preset 15. So that's pretty much how we can use that. If I wanted to go to a different preset, I could scan a different one. And now we're at preset number 1, again, preset 4, or preset 15. So it makes it very easy to be able to use the barcode to be able to change a preset that we want to use. It makes it very easy to be able to set that up. The only thing that we need to do in this case is make sure that we change the RS-232 port to accommodate the baud rate for a barcode scanner. Then that would be different for us using the software and the RS-232 connection to use the software. And so that kind of segues into our next session. We're going to be looking at the workflow and use of the software and how we can use that in conjunction with the tool. One of those ports is the RS-232 port. Could be the Ethernet port that we'd want to use, or if it's on a network. But we're going to demonstrate how we can set presets, how we can use some of the graphing function, some of the SPC data things that are available within the software. So we'll be doing that in our first class tomorrow, which is set for 12:30 Eastern time. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into any questions that you might have on what we just went through under the fastening parameter, or the advanced, or even the barcode. So if we have any questions right now, we can look at those. Do we have any questions, Damien?
Not at the moment. ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Alguno de los asistentes al evento? Solamente comentarios respecto a la explicación. So no questions so far, sir. So we're good to go.
All right. Again, we're going to have our final 2 class sessions tomorrow. The first one is going to be the use of the software for the EC and ECT products. And then our second class is going to deal with the introduction of our cordless transducerized DC tools. So we'll take a look at those at 1:30 Eastern, and the first one is at 12:30 Eastern time. So with that, thanks very much for your attention, and we look forward to answering any type of questions that you might have. If you need to see this in more depth, as it would relate to your specific need or application. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.